This is René Barbera. He's a star tenor.
Oh, please.
He has legitimately the loudest C I've ever heard in the theater before in my life. That's true. It's also a beautiful sound and all that other stuff, but you know what?
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
And René and I have known each other for a long time, and we tend to go at each other pretty hard on Facebook, and then it's fun. It's fun. It's great. And so maybe we bring a little bit of that to that. But first, I want to start with listen. I sort of it's been so interesting because I've done Larry Brownlee and Anthony Roth Costanzo, John Holiday, Isabel Leonard, and now you. Mm-hmm. And I've done about 35 interviews in general with the Hook, Push, and Pray. So I interviewed David. It was a 4-hour interview.
Holy but I'm not nearly that interesting.
No, you are. Trust me.
I'm complicated. I'm not interesting.
Fair. I like that. But what's so interesting, or has been interesting about each and every one of these is these are my colleagues for the most part. I know these people, but then you start doing the research and you start digging into these people's backgrounds. And with Isabel made her debut in 2007 and she won the Big Tucker in 2013. That's 6 years. Yeah. From her debut on stage to winning the Big Tucker. I mean, that's these little things you find out. And for me, one of the things that was so interesting that I found out, I had no idea you spent time at FGO in the Young Artist program. So yeah. So how does that materialize? So you want to be a high school choral director? Is that why you sort of go to undergrad?
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so I mean, I started with piano. I started with piano really young. I was talented, I had my piano. My teachers always said that if I wanted it, I could be a concert pianist, blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I never wanted to practice that much. It was too. I really didn't like practicing piano. And now, of course, I love it. I sit down to work on it in a Nemorino, and I'll start just playing the accompaniment. Of course, spending an hour doing that instead of practicing singing. Yeah. But anyway, fast forward a few years, and we moved from Laredo, Texas, to San Antonio. The background of that is an interesting story if you want to get into that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. By all means.
Later we'll touch on that. Just remind me why that move happened. Sure. And so while I'm in San Antonio, actually when I get to San Antonio, it comes to my attention or the attention of my music teacher of that school that the teachers from my elementary school in Laredo wrote on my permanent record, "Get him in choir, he has a beautiful voice." Now, here's the crazy thing. So we used to sing the national anthem every day in class. That's how my teacher, my third grade teacher, knew this and sent it along. That's
such a strong Texan thing. I love that.
It's super Texan.
Love it.
Okay, so here's the crazy part. I was known at that school for playing piano. I was often not in class because the music teacher pulled me out of my classes to go and play for all of the older kids.
Wow.
So people were doing my homework in elementary school or my classwork because I was out of class playing piano. And somehow my third grade teacher was like, yeah, but his voice is real pretty.
Right.
And so I get into choir in elementary school. I get into the San Antonio Boys Choir. I'm a boy soprano. Go figure. Stayed with the high notes when I changed.
Hey, it was preparing you for the Puritani F this whole time, right?
Totally. I mean, I used to be able to get to a high E flat, E, pretty up there.
That's more than a lot of Violettas have some nights. That's very
amazing. Well, so going into that, in middle school, I ended up actually being the only. Okay, so I started out in middle school, and they wanted to put me in the boys' choir, so they wanted to make me a tenor. And the choir director of the San Antonio Boys Choir was like, "No. Absolutely not. You're singing a mall in 3 months. If you sing tenor for 3 months, you're going to destroy your voice and you won't be able to sing a mall in a Mall of the Night Visitors."
Amazing.
By the way, every time I've told the story about how I got into singing opera, I had always never made the connection that a Mall of the Night Visitors is an opera.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no idea. It took Anna. Anna told me. She's like, you realize you're wrong when you tell that story. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, right. Your first opera was a mall. I'm like, oh. Suddenly it all makes sense.
But that's such a That's not as fun of a first opera. You know what I mean?
No,
You
but
don't
also it's kind of cool. I still remember
It is.
like 30% of the words. Okay, maybe 20% of the words.
Yeah.
But it's still cool. And so because of that, I went to my my middle school I guess choir director, and I said, I can't be in choir anymore. I have to be a soprano. And rather than say okay, she said, well, then you can just be in the girls' choir. So I was the only guy in the all-girls choir in middle school.
Oh my God. That's a fever dream of mine. Like, that just sounds like heaven.
I mean, I was too shy to make anything of it, of course,
Sure.
and being in 6th grade, 7th grade, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then my voice changed, and so actually, because of me being in the girls' choir, they decided to make a concert choir. So it was a mixed choir at that point.
So at that point, they just had like SSA and like TTBB.
Correct. And then the following year, they just put it all together because, well, there's already a guy in a girls' choir, and yeah, he's singing soprano,
Sure.
but like, well, let's mix everybody.
Sure.
And and then my voice changed, and my choir director broke down and cried in front of the entire class about my voice changing, which was hella embarrassing at the time.
Wait, but it's not like a natural disaster. Like, it's an inevitable. It's like.
I know, but I guess she thought it was a beautiful thing. I don't know what happened, but I was embarrassed about it, right? Because what happened is I got a cold.
Sure.
And then I just after the cold, the high note above B flat B never came back. Well, I mean, it came back actually, ironically. Yeah. But at the time, it didn't feel like I was ever going to do it.
Incredible.
And so, anyway, I stayed in choir. I met Gordon Ivers, who was the high school choir director at Clark High School. When I was in middle school as a soprano, I was singing the Fore Requiem. I was singing the Pie Jesu for the San Antonio Choral Society, and he was in it. So he knew about me and wanted me in his choir, and he was looking forward to me being there.
Yeah.
But my first year of high school, I decided not to do choir.
Right.
And I'm walking down the hallway. He sees me, and I say, hey, how's it going, Mr. Ivers? He grabs my ear, twists it, and I drop to my knees because it hurts. Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't messing around. And he said, why aren't you in my choir? And I said, I'm just taking a year off. I'll be in the choir next year. He goes, no, you won't. You're going to be in my choir by the end of the week.
Hell yeah. Good for him.
So he asked me what classes I was taking, and I said, I'm not going to drop my Spanish AP, Spanish APH. Like, I was in Spanish 3 APH or something. I tested into it. And he was like, he said, okay, fine, you're dropping history. So I had a lovely argument with the history teacher that set me up for a lifetime worth of being okay with butting heads with people.
100%.
It was amazing, actually, because I was good at it. I found out I was really good at it. But what really settled in was that my senior year of that year, I was dating. No, excuse me, my year after college, my girlfriend at the time, who was at high school still, was her teacher's assistant.
Right.
And she, I guess I called to pick her up, and she goes, oh, my boyfriend's going to pick me up. She goes, who's your boyfriend? And okay, so my first name is Eric, by the way, and I went by Eric for 23 years. And she said, oh, my boyfriend's Eric.
Eric is a good name.
It is a good name, but it doesn't sound as good as my middle name. René Barbera sounds so much better than Eric Barbera.
When you get that frontal tongue going too, I like that.
I mean, it just makes sense.
Barbera is like...
it just doesn't flow quite as right.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like a run-of-the-mill lyric baritone from Denver. Eric Barbera. You know what I mean?
It's true. You know, René is a good one. I like it.
Yeah.
And I hated it all throughout high school and middle school and everything. And then, of course, I was like, wait, you know what? This could be actually beneficial in the opera world. I'll take this.
For sure.
I might as well use it. I have it.
Do your parents call you René?
No.
Yeah.
They call me any number of things, but no. René comes out when I've done that's when I've done something wrong.
Of course. Yeah.
So I had a bad association with it, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Anyway, so I called my girlfriend, and she says, you know, she asked, so who's your boyfriend? The teacher asked her. This is the history teacher who I butted heads with.
Right.
And she goes, oh, I like that kid. That kid's got balls.
Oh, good.
Because she remembered me 5 years later because I just stood up for her, and so that kind of settled my thing. Anyway, that was a sidetrack.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you're the choir star, so much so that like you've got people weeping at your voice change.
I don't know about that, but
let's just go. It's better for the
okay. It's a cool one. Yeah? We'll go with it.
People are literally lamenting your voice change, and I'm so upset. No, so like it's so funny, and so much of this, you know, we all want to think we're special snowflakes in opera, but like a lot of us have very similar paths. We came up through choir. Someone discovered that we were like loud and had a blade at 7 years old for no reason. Yeah. And like, that's just sort of how it works. But you know, in the same way that me in undergrad, like I did not discover opera until about halfway through undergrad. So is that sort of this, like, when do you sort of start to say, okay, education's not a thing?
Yeah, so that happened kind of at the point that everything went, like, so my senior year, I said, okay, where am I going to go to school? What am I going to do? And I had two routes in my head. You'll never believe the first one we talked about. I wanted to be a high school choir director.
Yeah.
The second one, I wanted to maybe go to school for jazz, for vocal jazz, because I was in vocal jazz all throughout high school, which was awesome. Anyway, my high school choir director, when I finally decided I'm going to do education, I'm going to take this audition at University of Texas San Antonio. I want to do music education. And I knew I had to do the audition. So he helped me learn Zweignum.
Ja, du weißt es teure Seele.
Exactly. And he helped me learn Comfortieri Valley.
That's hard.
It was, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, sure.
And so I learned it, like, you know, without any fear of it, because I didn't know any better.
Zweignum's got those big, if you did it in the tenor key, it's got those big A's.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, and now I know that, but back then I was like, this is cool. I'm just gonna do it.
Why not? Yeah.
And so I do my audition, and I just tell them I want to go to school there. I get a scholarship, and I was planning on doing education, and my voice teacher says, you might want to consider doing performance.
Okay.
And I was like, well, all right, what the hell? I love singing, so why not? Let's see where this goes. I mean, I guess I knew on some level it was opera, but I really didn't know, you know?
Yeah.
And I was there, and then after a year and a half, I dropped out. I moved to Colorado. I wanted to go to DeVry for an IT degree because I said, this is ridiculous. There's no one's going to make a career in opera. What is this? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I need to have a real backup plan, blah, blah, blah. But I never wanted to quit.
And that was solely from, like, your inner, like, was that family pressure? Like, you just were like, opera's dead. You were just like, I can't do opera.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was a combination of things. I went to Ames and Gratz after my first year.
Okay.
Which was an amazing experience because I just got to focus on singing.
Right.
And I didn't have to deal with all of the core work and blah, blah, blah. That it was irrelevant. And I was going to college for singing, but like I sang a tenth of the day, as opposed to actually enjoying and singing most of the time. And so when I got back after that summer, I was just like, I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. Nothing's happening. I feel like I have no motivation, no momentum. This is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? I from the very beginning, I thought it was crazy. I thought I always needed to have a backup plan.
So you weren't in the business, and this is where we'll eventually get to in this. You weren't necessarily in the business of becoming a musician per se. You just really like to sing.
Correct.
So for you, it was just like, I would rather just, if I could sing all day, like I don't need to part right. I don't need to know the harmonies I'm doing or whatever. I mean, obviously now you know all that stuff. Like eventually you got, but that was for you the first love.
Yeah, I love singing. I loved it. So, but getting to singing, by the way, the boys choir thing, when I went to San Antonio Boys Choir, switching from piano to singing, my first year as a soprano in the boys choir, we ended up going to London on tour. So somehow in my brain, I guess it makes sense, I thought to myself, 1 year of singing and I got to go to London. 7 years of piano and I haven't really gone anywhere with it. I think I need to go to singing. And so that's kind of how that transition happened. Anyway, but so I kind of sort of stumbled into this career and stuff. And I even resisted for a long time. I dropped out, like I said. I moved to Colorado and I was doing windshield replacements and windshield repairs at Elite Auto Glass in Denver.
Amazing. It's hard. Replacing a windshield is hard.
Well, I didn't actually do the replacement of the windshield. I did repairs and I sold the replacements.
So you like drilled the little holes in around it. You did the
I put the resin and all that jazz.
Oh, of course.
Smacked it with UV rays. Yeah, it was awesome. Actually, I mean, I was killing it. Like within the first 2 months, I became one of their top salesmen. And my boss, though, here's this part of the story that's kind of miraculous if you think about it. My boss happened to also be a motivational speaker.
Unreal.
And so when we had our interview in Colorado, we talked about all the business, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, okay, let's have lunch. So he orders pizza. They get there. We have lunch. And he's just like, so tell me about yourself. And so I start talking about singing. And, of course, it gets there. And at the end, he's like, the only time in this entire time we've been together that your eyes have lit up, it's when you were talking about singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had talked about the fact that I'd been to Ames and Gratz and that I'd been in contact with Betty Colson, who I had worked with in Ames and Gratz. Right. And she told me to be in contact with Martille Roland at the Vocal Arts Symposium.
Right.
Well, excuse me. I didn't know about the Vocal Arts Symposium. I just knew to be in contact with her as a voice teacher. And so I mentioned that to him. And this boss, the only boss that I can definitively say gave a shit
right.
for any kind of like regular job. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
He said, I know you're not going to do this for the rest of your life. He goes, I know you're not going to be in this job. So every week I'm going to call you and I'm going to make sure that you've been in contact with that voice teacher. You have to be in contact. And he did it every week, sometimes twice a week.
So
have you been in contact? The guy was amazing. So I finally get in contact with her and I told him, hey, I finally got in contact and I have next Thursday off, whatever the day it was. I want to go and have a lesson. And he goes, sure. But listen, just tell me if anything comes up, you let me know. Okay. I support you. So I do this voice lesson and she offers me a full ride, room and board, to the Vocal Arts Symposium.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to sing, very first thing I sang as, I guess kind of as an adult at this point, or ish adult, college kid, dropout.
I have a 3-year-old and I'm not an adult.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm still not there yet.
A moving target. Yeah.
I was an adult for about 5 minutes a couple of years ago, and I don't know what happened. I don't even remember what those 5 minutes entailed. I kind of blacked out. Yeah, so I go and she offers me to sing, and I get to sing. The whole thing is I get to sing like from La Donna Immobile to the end of the opera. Or no, from the quartet to the end of the opera. I don't know. Whatever order that comes in. La Donna Immobile to the end.
Yeah, La Donna's first, yeah.
Yeah, so I get to sing the whole last act, basically, which was cool, and I had a great time, blah, blah, blah.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. But at the time, it was a lot easier. It was actually easier then than it is now.
Well, it was easier then because you didn't know.
Exactly.
I always say that, too. I'm always like, the first time that I sang Figaro, it was very easy. And then you go back and listen to the recording, and you're like, well, that's why it was easy. Woof. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Exactly.
So this amazing guy, we'll get back to the vocal arts. So this amazing guy is just like your eyes light up when you talk about singing. And that's what's so interesting to hear you say that, because your eyes do light up when you talk about singing. Like you still love it so much.
I do. I love singing.
Right, but what has taken that? What have you found that your love of singing has? Do you still have the love of singing, and now all the is just catching up with it, or are you like how is that? How is that working? Because you're very open about your frustration in the business and your frustration with all of this. Like that guy saw it in your eyes, and I see it in your eyes even when you talk about it today. So that's where the two become very disproportionate for me, and I don't really understand.
I guess it's, how do I explain this in the easiest way possible? I love singing. I love it. It makes me feel like nothing else that I do.
Right.
No question.
Right.
The amount of stress in the business to be the best at all times the moment you walk on stage that you could possibly be is intense. That part alone I can handle.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. I like that kind of stress. That stress, I feed off of it. I love being called last minute to go and jump in a La Scala in 24 hours notice for Traviata. Yeah. That was amazing. Doing Puritani in Barcelona in 24 hours notice. Amazing. Yeah. Stressful as hell. Right. Exhausting, but I loved it. I loved every second because it was just like, all right, this is a challenge. This is awesome. I want to try this. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie in that way. So that stuff I love. But the business side of it, all of the peripheral things, like there's so many things just get to me. I mean, the number of times that I've worked with a director who doesn't know the text, who doesn't know that when I'm singing this line, I'm not speaking to Rosina, I'm speaking to Figaro.
Yeah.
Things like that. And that I have to play this game that I'm somehow like, oh, but I think that perhaps maybe I was supposed to blah, blah, blah. I hate that crap. I hate this like ego petting that we have to do in the business because we're lowly singers and that these people who, I mean, you get what I'm saying. And
I do. And I think you're 100% right. Here's where we disagree. here's where we disagree. I really will get back to the vocal symposium.
Sure.
But I am interested more in this because I think it's more interesting. Here's where we disagree. I hate it too. I have also been directed with a director with liner notes in his hand and trying to do his best. Like we've had numerous conductors, mostly male, unfortunately, who are just like beating in 3 when it's in 6. Like, it's crazy. Now, that's all true, right? But the difference that you and I approach that with is that exists in every single business.
Sure.
And so that is where, now, does that mean that we should not fight for a better conductors and directors who know the score? Maybe.
No.
But yeah, but like I think that if you are successful in this business, and you could argue that you are in the top 0.5% of success in this business in terms of house is done, debuts done, trajectory, machine, like the whole walkthrough, the whole thing. Like you've done it, and this business has been amazing to you. And now, that's not to say that you should just lay over, because we need our leaders to lead, and you're a leader. But the difference is that when I think that it frustrates people when you come from the side of this sucks for me as bad as it sucks for you, because that is just sort of almost on an objective scale not true. And I'll explain what I mean by that, because I'm not telling you, because I do this. I've been incredibly successful. And when I'm complaining about singing a Leporello after I flew first class, there's not a lot of ears willing to listen to me, right? There's just not, and that's okay.
No, I get it.
Right? We're at the top of our business, and we're very lucky to do so. But what I worry about is that when you are so open with your negativity towards the business, which is fine, by the way, but when you are, it comes a little bit across like the stars, like all of the celebrities who were singing Imagine from their mansions and during the COVID time. And you're just like, but like, sure, you get to complain, but like, complain with like, call me and complain. Because when you do it, does that make sense?
I see what you mean, but I think the reason that I'm so open about it and the reason I'm public with it is because I think a lot of people believe, especially at certain levels of the career, starting out and et cetera, that it's all sunshine and rainbows at the top, and we're at the quote unquote top. And believe me, I know you say I'm at the 0.5%, and maybe you're right, but I don't consider myself at the top by any means. Not from a fee structure, not from a stardom structure. I mean, 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe 3 years ago, I tried to get a fee from a company, a small company, mind you.
Yeah.
For singing Alma Viva. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, I don't know where you stand on the hierarchy of characters in Barbara Seville, but I am of the belief, and
Alma Viva should make them up. A tenor in any show should make them. It's really, 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 really.
I don't know about in any show, but in Barbara Seville,
100%.
The opera was written for Alma Viva because Rossini wrote it for Alma Viva, because Paisiello was right. Paisiello, whatever it is, I can't remember exactly how you pronounce it.
Paisiello.
Wrote Barbiere Siviglia. Mm-hmm. So he could not write Barbiere Siviglia. So he wrote Alma Viva, ossia l'inno di precauzione.
Right.
And he wrote it as such, with Alma Viva being the title character.
Right.
So as such, Alma Viva has the most fucking singing, period.
Yeah.
So all of that, I tried to get my fee that I wanted for a role that I really hate singing, by the way. Mm-hmm. I love to act it. I love to perform it. It's actually a lot of fun. But I never had
You're so good at it. Why would you hate it?
Because it's so hard, and my voice feels like roast beef by the time it's over. I mean, I know everybody tells me that it sounds good, and when I go back objectively and listen to recordings of it, I'm like, all right, I see why people want me to sing it. But also, I feel like I'm selling my soul to sing it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's a little bit. That's kind of how I feel about it. And I'll get on that in a little while.
Yeah, for sure. We'll touch on that.
But, okay, so all of that said, I asked for a fee, and quite literally, and I probably shouldn't have ever seen this communication, but one of my former agents had communicated with them, and the response that I saw that I don't think I was ever supposed to see from them was, oh, well, we couldn't possibly afford that much for an Alma Viva. We really want this young tenor, but, you know, we can't have him for this price, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm sorry. You can't pay that much for an Alma Viva. Who are you going to pay?
Right.
Next, young tenor. Okay, so I'm young.
Right.
But what have I done in the years that I've been doing it? And what happened to being the thing that bothers me is that on some level, this on a greater level than I even want to believe, because there's a part of me that's still a bit of an idealist.
Right.
In fact, there's a huge part of me that's an idealist, and that's why I'm kind of pissed off, is that this, in a way, this business should be a meritocracy in which if you go somewhere and you kick ass, then you should, the next time you go, you should get paid as such. And now it doesn't work that way anymore unless you do something astronomically, holy crap, amazing. But even that, there's this game of PR. And I get it. I know why it exists, but it's really frustrating. I did a jump in at a theater in which I stepped in for a very, very famous and seasoned tenor who is notorious for singing encores of this particular piece. I stepped in and I encored this particular aria in this particular piece 2 nights out of 3. Had that person done it at this house, which is a major house in Europe, had that person done it, it would have been all over the news, all over the world in a second. I did it, nothing, not even in the local paper. And I didn't get hired back. Not a single contract. That bothers me. I don't want to turn around and make twice as much just because I did it, but I want to get rehired when I do a great job. And I want to, I don't know, just parts of it that just things like that are just.
But Renee, yes, I agree with you in principle, and that's the crazy part. Here's where and I think it's best to always find common ground and then see where we break off. I think, and I've said this, I think that Russell Thomas should make $45,000 a night to sing Otello. I think that singing Otello is the hardest thing to do in the entire world.
I believe that.
Now, I truly don't think that there's a harder thing to do. Now, having said that, that just doesn't exist.
Sure.
Right? So first of all, that just doesn't exist. Second of all, like Renee, again, I am not standing in the shoes of the person who is like, successful people don't get to complain. Of course they do. But there has to be that level of like, oh shit, it's been really great for me. And not even in comparison to others. Right.
No, don't get me wrong. Look, I'm not saying that the business has been terrible to me. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the business has not been sunshine, roses, and wonderful to me. It has cost me an immense.
Legitimately, and I'm not trying to cut you off. This is just hard to do, like back and forth.
Yeah, of course.
Are you 100% sure that people said it was going to be rainbows and because that is just not what I was told.
No, definitely not. I was definitely not told that. But most people who see where I am, prime example. When I went to my alma mater, I spoke to the undergrads and I said, "How many of you guys think I'm famous?" Everybody raised their hand. And I said, "How many of you guys think I'm rich?" Everybody raised their hand. And then I told them the story that I went to sing at a summer festival, a very prominent summer festival. I was there for 2 months. My fee was $28,500 for 4 performances.
Right.
Now, at the time, I thought that's great. I'm going to make great money over the summer. That's fantastic.
Right.
But then I broke it down. My travel here cost $4,000 because this place was hard to get to. It required a flight from where I was living in San Antonio, which always has a connection, or 2 or 3, followed by the train to get there. So, my wife travels with me, and we made that choice early on because I realized that if she stayed somewhere and worked, I would never see her, and that would not be a life that I wanted to live. And it's one of the reasons actually I didn't want to sing. When I was starting, I told myself I didn't want to be a husband that wasn't there for his wife, and I didn't want to be a father who wasn't there for his child.
I understand. The
children thing, that never happened, and that's okay. But the other still holds true. So I said, you know what, we need to travel together. Otherwise, this isn't worth it to me. I'll quit singing instead because it's not worth it. And we didn't want to go there. So she's traveling with me. That was a personal choice and an expensive one, but one that we needed to live with and enjoy because we wanted to actually enjoy the world together, not enjoy the world apart.
I understand.
Anyway, so Getting there cost $3,500, $4,000 roughly. I don't remember the exact numbers, but anyway, so I get there, spend that much money. I spend who knows how much for the housing because I don't remember exactly. But what I ended up doing, calculating travel, agent fees, housing, food costs, and whatever miscellaneous things I had to do. Like I had to buy a router for this place because they had this tiny little key thing and I needed to download music. Like
the expenses, got it.
Yeah, all kinds of random expenses that came up.
Mm-hmm.
Over what I took home after all of that in taxes, by the way, I still hadn't paid taxes in the States, which is another issue. After all of that, I went home with €4,000.
Right.
Out of 28,500. Anna and I could have worked at Starbucks for 2 months full time and had that same amount of money.
But Renee, and here's where we start, because I think you're banging your head up against the wall for a thing that you shouldn't. So the first thing is, we all know summer places don't pay money. You go to them because no one else is doing summer work.
Yeah, but
right?
To be honest with you, no, actually, this particular summer place wasn't of that nature. It was a pretty good fee actually per performance, and at the time it was pretty much in line with every fee I was getting, which actually was only a couple of years ago.
Great. So I think that it's very, very clear for any opera singer. I think this is the best advice I was ever given. Whatever you see on the paper, assume you're getting 50% of. And that's perfect, right?
I wish.
Well,
I usually get 25 to 30% of it.
Yeah, I just don't. That's where Renee, and I'm not trying to count your money, and I'm not trying to tell you this, but like, dog, like, I legitimately don't know how it's possible. We have the exact same career. We have the same. We sing at the same places. I've done the Met. I've done the whole thing.
Okay,
I also have a kid.
So I can break it down for you really quickly, okay? So 28.5, 10% right off the top. That's gone. That's 10% already gone. 30% stay behind in Italian taxes, straight out the gate. So now we're looking at 40% already gone. And that's not including my $4,000 in travel, my $4,000 plus in housing, because housing is expensive. And I never got to stay at that place again because the following year is even more expensive. I ended up having other places. So we're already looking at just in travel and housing around $8,000, which is already by itself 10% was $2,800. What is 8,000 out of 28,000? You know, that's almost 4 times as much. That's almost another 30% gone. So no, we don't get to keep, if we're lucky, 50%. We get to keep 30% if we're lucky. And that's before I even started investing in PR and trying to dress up my image, because the number of times I got told by an agent or by a colleague or by somebody in power that I needed to dress like a star tenor to be treated like one is really difficult. And it gets super crazy and expensive. I mean, look, I get it. Like, there were choices I had to make, and I made choices to go down this road, and I made choices to pursue trying to get higher up. And those things cost money, and those things cost a lot of money. You know, PR, easily $2,000 plus a month. A month, dude. I could buy, that's a mortgage. And I've never mind the fact that I have an apartment I'm paying for at home that I'm never in. With the exception of maybe 60 days a year, plus all the bills I'm paying for to keep the internet running, to keep the lights going, even though I'm not here. You know what I mean? And then, I mean, look, I get it and I understand, but the expenses are not the same everywhere.
I understand that. I would. The only thing I will counter with is that my biggest year freelancing, since you've been so upfront and honest with numbers, I would like to return that same pleasantry. And this is going to start getting very gross, but numbers-wise, I think it's important to talk about because no one ever does. My biggest year as a freelancer before I took a FES position was $185,000. That was a great year. It was an unbelievable year. So you made the Met debut, did the whole thing. I had, at the time, a 1-month-old. I had a wife, and I was bawling out of control. Now, and so for me to know, and again, not counting your money because everybody has their own journeys, but for me to know, and this is open knowledge because you've disclosed it on Facebook publicly, for me to know you've had a $400,000 career,
1 year.
Excuse me, I want to be clear, $400,000 1 year, which by the way, and I'm just going to assume, which is always nasty to do, but like you don't go from 90 to 400. Right. So but the jump was substantial, actually. Right. And the reason the jump happened was because of all the random jump-ins that occurred. And also, a lot of the jump-ins. You did 9 debuts like a psycho in 2017.
Yeah, that was insane. Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. But that is where I think okay. So let me be very upfront and honest with you.
Go ahead.
I think that is where someone who has a regional career in America, who's literally actually scraping to get by and making $85,000 a year gross.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that when they see someone like you saying, you know, this, I'm not, excuse me, but like this, I'm not making enough money. This business is so I think that, like, how is that not incredibly eye-roll inducing?
I have an interesting perspective on this. I have not always only worked at A houses and B houses. I have worked also in smaller houses because sometimes I want to work in a place that I love, regardless of their budget. I want to be home or close to people I care about. So one thing I know that is distinctly different between A houses and houses like, I don't know, regional places, is that the regional places cover your housing, they cover your flights, and they cover your rental car. I don't get that. When I go to New York, I paid $11,000 for 2 months. Unfortunately, I had originally planned on paying $6,000, but there was an issue with my housing, and I had to get out. It was my debut. It was a major debut, and I didn't have time to sit there and get sick with flea bites over and sleeping poorly, etc. So $11,000, that's an exceptional one. I never paid that much before, and I never hope to God never have to pay that much again. But regularly, I pay $7,000 plus for 2 months in any place. Paris, good luck finding a place with 1 bedroom in Paris. It doesn't cost $3,500.
Since we're doing this money thing, like that housing in New York, also you were getting paid probably $8,500 times 7 per night. Like, actually,
and so I only it was 6 performances. I got 5 of them.
And you get it. And what about that $2,200 rehearsal fee you get every week? Like that's where
it's not the same for everybody, but yeah.
That's where I start doing the math, and I'm just like, Renee.
No, but what you're missing is you're looking at the big numbers. What you're missing is that but you are because the thing is the thing that you're missing is the 1 year that I made $400,000. The reason I got that high was because I did 3 gigs that had 9 performances each. That never happens to me. Most of my productions are 3 to 5 performances, and in fact, on average, they're 4. It's very seldom that they're 5. Most of the time they're 4, frequently they're 3. Now, all of that said, I understand where you're coming from. I totally do. But when I do a gig for 1 month that cost me, 2 months, it's 3 performances, or maybe a month and a half, that's 3 performances, I'm still spending a fortune on housing, and then I have to quickly go and spend another fortune on housing. The thing is, first of all, there's something to note. I don't know how you've worked in Italy often at all. When I was working in the States, when I was living in the States and working in Italy doesn't cover flights, period.
Yeah, Italy's brutal. And
I mean, I love working there, but they don't cover flights. So that becomes really, really expensive.
Right.
And all that stuff happens. But I started the thing that we have to consider, and that we're not talking about, is that when I started my career, when I started my tax debt, I was a young artist at the Lyric.
Yeah.
And I was doing well. I was paying my taxes. They were getting taken out from me.
Right.
And I never fully understood what the tax rate was going to be when I broke 100,000.
Right.
And I did it by accident. By accident. I mean, I wanted to do it. I didn't know that it was.
$100,000.
I want that image. Yeah. Well, I mean, I won Upper Alia. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was a huge.
You didn't win Upper Alia. You won all 3. First ever to just win them all 3.
I won with Pretty Yende, who also did the exact same thing the same night. But yeah, I mean, it was great.
Yeah, but no one needs to know that.
She deserves the credit she has.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what happened is, I don't know if you got taught in college about really what self-employment taxes were going to look like. Of course
not. No one ever does.
I had zero clue.
Right.
So I got my $50,000. I bought a motorcycle, having a great time. I put away about $5,000 thinking, I've already paid this much taxes, $5,000 will be enough.
Mm.
It wasn't, because I didn't consider the fact that I was being taxed at a rate that was considering my salary, not considering my self-employment income.
I understand.
So everything got taxed more. Yep. And I ended up owing something like, I don't know, $15,000 or $13,000. And I was like, shit, I only got $5,000 and I need this $5,000 to pay for my housing and the next thing. So I'm going to have to get a payment plan on this. Yeah. So I start getting a payment plan. I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
The next year, I save up. I don't know. I don't remember how much I made, but I started my career singing in places like Vancouver, expensive as hell, Toronto, expensive as hell, and all these places. And so my fees weren't high enough that one fee would cover my housing yet. And it took a long time to get there. And so I was actually running on a negative because I was spending a lot of money on housing, because one of the things that my first agent told me right out the gate was, don't skimp on housing. Because if you sleep poorly, you're going to sing poorly. And if you sing poorly, you're not going to get hired again.
I personally think that's really bad advice before 35, personally.
Yeah, well, I started getting a lot of neck pain and stuff with bad beds and pillows around 33. But I agree with
that's what I'm saying. So like if an agent at 27 is telling you like, don't skip on housing, no, at 28, you can roll out of the bed and sing whatever you want to.
At 28, but at 28, not knowing shit, I trusted the guy who knew it. At any rate, but also not to mention, I was traveling with my wife, and I don't know how much time you spend in a studio apartment with your wife at any given time, but like we need a second room in order to not kill each other. So we always ended up getting a 1-bedroom everywhere we went, and that got expensive, and it got exhausting financially. So I started out with a negative of 12 to 13,000. What I did not know was how much penalty I actually get every year from the IRS on that debt. Even though I'm paying every month, it increases every year. So this started going on. I never got to catch up to that. So I finally get to the end of the year, and I think, okay, cool. I have like 10 grand saved up. That should be enough because I've already paid taxes in all these other countries and all these other things. I should be okay. And that's when I learned the bullshit of the taxes, which the foreign tax credits are BS. Because when I found out, the explanation came later, but basically, to sum it up and use easy numbers, if you make 100 grand in the United States and 100 grand in France, all right, 30%, or I guess 20% stays in France or whatever it ends up being, and then you come back. The U.S. says, well, only half of your income came from France. So only half of the taxes you paid in France count as taxes paid here. So you still owe not 10%, you still owe 20%.
Right.
So you're getting taxed 40 instead of the 20 or 30 you thought you were going to pay. Anyway, it gets ugly. So
just it's because we only have like maybe 10 minutes left.
Oh,
taxes suck. We can do a class on that another time.
Okay, so all of that, right? I got caught being behind, and eventually that year I ended up owing $26,000 that year in taxes. And I was $26,000 on top of the 12 that I had before. Then I said, okay, I'm going to put that on payment plan. So the following year, I saved up $36,000, and I'm like, this will be enough. I can pay off my tax debt, and I should still have enough to kind of at least pay half of the next one. Nope. The next year, I owed $35,000. So I saved 36 grand, thinking it was going to be enough, and I only paid off 1 year of taxes that year, and I still have the other 26 to go. And every time I was paying thousands a year on that stuff, I'd get thousands in penalties. I
understand where the debt hole comes. I really do. I have been in major tax trouble myself because no one tells you about it.
But that's why the 400,000 a year that happened very recently, mind you. It wasn't like it happened 3 years ago and I've just been coasting since. It happened in I think it was last year that it happened. And this year was supposed to be mega. I was supposed to have an incredible year.
You've been singing at A houses for
almost a decade. But my feet, no, not a decade. I get that, and I know what you mean. But the fees are not as good as you think they are.
No, I also sing at them. I know what the fees are. Like I'm very aware.
So you know.
But also I'm telling you that, René, like I guess the point is when you complain about the business, I think that and financially speaking, like, dog, like if you were in a for-profit and you were a coder at Google, 400 grand a year is a shit ton of money. Now, I understand that that's as a freelance person and not it's a 1099 versus W-2. It's a total different amount of
But also they don't have overhead. Bro, look, I'm just telling you right now. I can tell you right now, financially, from a financial perspective, I have done the calculation. I would be keeping more money as a chorister at the Met. I would keep more of my income in the chorus at the Met than I would making $400,000 a year. That is mathematical fact, because again, 10% gone right out the gate. So 400 grand, that's 40 grand gone. I'm at 360. I'm paying over 2,000 a month for PR. That's over 20 grand, 24 grand gone. So there's, what are we talking about? We're at 64 grand gone. And I haven't even talked about travel. I haven't talked about housing. I haven't talked about food. I haven't talked about any of the other expenses that are involved. Never mind the random things.
I understand what you're saying. I just really, I apologize, but I don't apologize, but I just, those numbers don't add up. And
no, I just gave you the numbers. I just gave you two. Renee, I just gave you two expenses that added up. Bro, I gave you no, but stop. I gave you two expenses that add up to 64,000. Two expenses. That's not including coaching, housing, which by the way, housing is around 30 plus. So I'm almost at, so for a year, singing in major cities around the globe, I'm spending approximately 30 to 35,000 a year just on housing. So we're looking already, I'm at 99 to 100,000 in expenses, and that's 3 expenses. That's not including travel. That's not including my debts that I have to pay from my previous business beginning, because everybody who starts a business, for the most part, unless you get really rich right out the gate, has to go in debt to go into business. But
Renee, just really quickly, it just, I understand that the young years that you had, you were like, you really, I was a mess.
I admit, I screwed up completely.
I was a mess, and I have had, first of all, I'm like 5 years younger than you, so I've had 5 years less to make more money. But I'm just saying, like, I was in the exact same boat. I don't have family money. I don't have parent money. And I am on a fest salary, which, by the way, and I said this on Facebook, but I really mean it. Once you start doing the math on a fest, like, forget about the benefits.
Oh, I know. Dude, I know.
No money.
I know.
And, like, I have recovered from my tax debt pretty soundly. Now, and here's what I'll tell you that I've lived like. I've lived like a total monk for like 3 years, for my first 3 years of my career, because that's how business works. And you talk so much about being a business-minded person, and you talk so much about how to run your own business and how we need to think about money in this career. I get that, but it sounds a little bit like it sounds a little bit like like John Ralphio on Parks and Rec, when you were like, oh, I made $30,000, now I'll spend $30,000 at the beginning of your career.
No, but at the beginning of my career, I had to. That's the unfortunate thing. I would get money, and I'd have to turn around. And I mean, the thing is, I started out Vancouver, Toronto, and then where did I go after that? It was a lot of the U.S. the first year. That all happened. I accrued more debt, tax debt. I eventually paid my mom bailed me out because I had ended up at a $50,000 tax debt. So I've been paying her down slowly but surely. But the thing that we're missing is that, yes, you were able to live like a monk, and that's awesome, dude. That truly, I wish that I could have done that. I got bad advice early on that I thought was sacrosanct and necessary. So I couldn't live like a monk.
That's not the current business's fault, though. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that is.
But the current business is. But isn't the current? No, but it no. What you're missing is that my current business is paying off the debt of my young stupidity.
Right, but that's not opera's fault. It's your fault.
No, I'm not talking about. That's not why I hate opera. That's why I do it for the money to pay off my debt.
That's why you get frustrated as opera, because you always talk about how financially. Well, but
that's not just financially. No. The reason I stay in the business.
No, you say I make $400K a year and I can barely make ends meet.
That's not exactly how it went. Okay, but so yeah. But context matters, because I was talking about the fact that I'm still paying off the debts from before. No, the reason I stay in the business is because of the money, because of the high potential for earning. Because also, here's what matters to me. Here's the thing that makes me stay in the business. Yes, I love to sing. I love my colleagues. I love them. They're my favorite. Dude, I love working with them. But they're great people. I love working with these people. They're phenomenal. I have a great time with them. Here, the thing that gets me is this. Oh, sorry. The thing that also I love is that it affords me the ability to bring my family and my wife's family to places they otherwise would never have had the chance to go, or maybe not have gone on their own. And so seeing them and being those things matter to me. What it doesn't pay off, what the reason that the business hurts me and that the money is the only thing that can possibly make up for it, and really it doesn't, I just lied to myself about that, is that I have missed being the best man at least at 3 weddings. I have missed more weddings than I can count. I missed one of my closest friends, the birth of 2 of her children, and it took 2 years plus for me to meet either of them. I don't get to see my best friend of 20 years, but once every few years. I see my family once a year, maybe. My brother, René, I see once every 2 years.
Those sacrifices are so real, and I miss my family so much too, and that's all very true. But the same sacrifices that you're making at $400K, the person who's making 100 and barely scraping by is also making. So like that's.
But this is. But what I'm saying.
For the money, then you won. Like you won. You did.
But no, but I haven't because I'm still not able to retire. I could not retire in 15 years at the rate I was going. That's the problem because of all the debt that I have and all the debt that I'm still paying off from before. It's not enough. It's getting there. It is getting there, no question. But the thing is, what the other thing what we're missing is that I'm forgetting to mention, I should say.
Yeah.
Is
2 minutes. 2 minutes, by the way. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Cool.
Go ahead.
I now have high blood pressure, and I'm on blood pressure medicine.
Sure.
I'm sure this helps. I have. It's great. No, I take my medicine at 11:30. I'll be good. No, I have tinnitus in both of my ears.
I know.
Dude, I hear literally. I'm singing una furtiva si può morir.
I know.
Si può morir. Yeah, but that's because of all the stress and shit. Look, man, I get it, and I understand where you're coming from. I do, but it doesn't take away. How do I explain this? My experience absolutely has been better than most, and don't get me wrong. That's singing.
Really nice. We can't just leave it at that. Like
I love singing.
And then call me and call Larry Brownlee to complain. Like
no. Because why do I have to police? No, here's the thing. You want to know why I get on? You want to know why I get on Facebook and say that stuff? Because people who are really self-righteous go out and say anybody who doesn't do it for the art shouldn't be doing it at all. I hate that sentiment with a passion. I don't believe that we should be policing the reason why artists choose to make art. I think that is BS. We're
going to start this with 30 seconds left.
Yes, but that is why I jump in on those posts because people say that stuff and I'm like, no, that's crap. Do it for whatever reason makes you happy. Leave it alone.
But that's the problem, René. You're not happy with the career. That's the problem. Right? So
it doesn't matter whether I'm happy or not. Doesn't matter.
Well, you just said let them do what makes them happy. You're not happy, René, and I want you to be happy. Like. I worry about you, and this is all from. I'm a soft, sweet guy. And
I can tell you this. I can tell you this.
And if you are only doing it for the money, I want to hear what you have to say. I really do. But like, oh no. But like,
no, we're here. I got you.
If you only do it for the money, and you have no artistic want to do it, that's fine. But like, understand that there is always gonna be a 10% unfulfillment. I just believe that. I
cannot hear you, man. You're chopping up a bunch.
Oh, no.
Are you there?
Can you hear me? Oh, my God. Did I get you back?
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
It's
going to kick us off anyways at 57.
It's fine.
But.
Okay, so the reason that the thing that makes me happiest right now, that is making me happier, is that I'm singing repertoire that I actually love now, finally.
Right.
So that matters to me. It makes me happier. And I'm finally starting to make enough money that last year, the year I made $400,000, I was able to live without credit card debt, and I was paying off my credit cards and all my tax debt really, really well.
Awesome.
And then all of a sudden, COVID.
Yeah, but COVID's not opera's
No, it's not opera's fault. It's not. But some things happened that was really, really they were really upsetting.
Well, listen,
we won't touch on that.
I at least want to do a wrap up. It's just been great. Thank you for going here with me, and I really appreciate it. I love you. I think that you're a wonderful artist, regardless of whether you feel like one or not. And
likewise, man.
I think you are an excellent singer, man. Thank you for joining me, and
thank you.
And good stuff. Good stuff, man. Really enjoyed it.
All right, man. Take it easy.